Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever really stopped to think about how a single breath you take manages to fuel every single cell in your body? Well, today, we're going to dive into this incredible relay race that's happening inside you every single second. We're exploring the very core of human physiology. You know, it's not just one thing. It's this amazing journey that involves a whole team of sophisticated systems, all working together in perfect harmony. Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to follow that one breath from start to finish, all the way from the air around you to, say, a muscle cell in your big toe. So our journey has to start somewhere, right? It begins in what you can think of as the intake warehouse, the respiratory system. Its main job is to bring in the first runner in our relay, that absolutely essential package, oxygen. Now, the air you breathe doesn't just randomly flood your lungs. Nope, it follows a very specific path. As you can see here, it comes in through your nostrils, travels down through the pharynx and trachea, and then it branches off into smaller and smaller tubes inside your lungs. The whole journey ends in these millions of tiny, delicate air sacs called the alveoli. And this is where the real magic happens. It's the first handoff in our relay race. So what's really cool is how your body uses some pretty basic physics to breathe. To breathe in, your muscles have to actively contract to make your chest cavity bigger. This extra space lowers the pressure inside your lungs, basically creating a vacuum that just sucks air right in. Then breathing out is usually passive. Those muscles just relax, the space gets smaller, the pressure goes up, and the air naturally flows out. It's really just an elegant game of pressure differences. Okay, so the oxygen has arrived safely in the lungs. The first baton has been passed. But how does it get from there to that muscle cell we were talking about in your toe? Well, let's move on to the next leg of the relay. The circulatory system, which is basically our body's incredibly efficient superhighway. Here's a really crucial point. Oxygen doesn't just dissolve in your blood like sugar and water. Honestly, that would be way too slow and inefficient. Instead, it gets to hitch a ride on a specialized, super high-capacity delivery truck. And that truck is called hemoglobin, found inside every one of your red blood cells. And this just brilliantly illustrates how important hemoglobin is. It's not just a helper, it is the main transport system. A staggering 97% of all the oxygen moving through your body is attached to hemoglobin. I mean, without it, our cells would literally be starving for oxygen. So you've got this massive closed-loop network. The heart acts as this powerful, tireless pump, just propelling red blood cells through miles and miles of blood vessels, making sure that every single cell, no matter how far away it is, gets its vital oxygen delivery right on time. So the delivery truck, a red blood cell, has finally arrived at its destination, a body cell that's desperate for energy. The package is handed off. This is the second baton pass in our race, where the oxygen leaves the blood and actually enters the cell. Now, inside the cell, that oxygen is used to fuel a process called cellular respiration. You can think of it as a microscopic furnace. It burns fuel, like glucose from the food you ate, to produce ATP. And ATP is the direct energy currency that powers every single thing you do. But just like any furnace, this process creates exhaust fumes. And in this case, that's carbon dioxide. You know, any successful delivery service also needs a really efficient waste management system. The relay isn't over yet. We now have to run the waste product, that CO2, all the way back to the start. So how exactly does the body get rid of all that carbon dioxide? Okay, this is fascinating. Unlike oxygen, most of the CO2 doesn't just ride back with hemoglobin. The vast majority, a full 70%, is cleverly converted into a totally different molecule, bicarbonate, for its journey back to the lungs. It's a neat trick that allows the blood to carry way more waste away and do it safely. And this slide just brilliantly shows you the give and take nature of this whole exchange. It's a perfect swap. Out at the tissues, where CO2 levels are high, hemoglobin lets go of its oxygen and picks up the CO2. Then, when it gets back to the lungs, where oxygen levels are high, it does the exact opposite. It drops off the CO2 and picks up a fresh load of oxygen to start the trip all over again. So while all that CO2 is being efficiently breathed out, other waste products from all those cellular processes are building up in the blood. So let's move on to the final stage of our journey, the body's incredibly sophisticated filtration plant, the excretory system. The star player here is a microscopic marvel called the nephron. Seriously, think of it as a tiny, highly advanced purification station. And get this, you have about 1 million of them in each kidney, all working together around the clock to clean your blood. So the process of making urine is incredibly precise, and it happens in three main steps. First, filtration. Pretty much everything small is forced out of the blood. Then, step 2 is reabsorption. The body goes back and meticulously pulls back all the good stuff it wants to keep. And finally, secretion. It actively pushes out any remaining trash into what's left, which then becomes urine. Now, to give you a sense of scale, get ready for this number. Your kidneys filter an astonishing 180 liters of fluid from your blood every single day. That's enough to fill a large bathtub. So the obvious question is, why on earth aren't we producing that much urine? Well, the answer is reabsorption. And this is a hugely important point, especially for the NEET exam. Your body is just unbelievably efficient. Of that entire 180-liter bathtub it filters, it reclaims over 99% of it, keeping all the good stuff and leaving only about 1.5 liters of concentrated waste behind as urine. Amazing. So, we followed a molecule of oxygen all the way in, we saw how it was used, and we tracked its waste products all the way out. We've seen the entire relay race. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does this chain matter so much? The most crucial thing to remember is that these systems are not just isolated chapters in a textbook. They are a single, deeply interconnected, and dynamic process. The circulatory system is the link between the respiratory system's gas exchange and the excretory system's waste filtration. A problem with your lungs will eventually affect your kidneys, and a problem with your kidneys will affect your lungs. It's all connected. So for your exam prep, try not to just memorize facts about each system by itself. If you can start seeing physiology as this cooperative story, this great relay race, you'll build the conceptual foundation you need to figure out even the toughest, most complex questions. But that leaves one big question, doesn't it? Who is the coach of this incredible relay team? What's controlling your breathing speed, your heart rate, and your kidney function to make sure they all work together in perfect harmony? Well, that's a fantastic question, and the answer leads us right into the wonders of the nervous and endocrine systems. Thanks for watching The Explainer.